Life can be unpredictable when you're homeless. Things can change in a minute's notice. Moving constantly, worrying, never knowing where you can stay from day to day, or if there will be enough food. And for homeless students, life is even more unpredictable, because while in class at school, they worry about their family. Are mom and dad okay? Will we be at the same place tonight? Is someone coming to get me? It's a lot for a child to deal with. The struggle of these homeless students goes unseen by most of the community, making student homelessness Fargo's silent secret.
You know, people get into homeless situations for many, many different reasons. It could happen to anyone. It could be, you know, in this area, it could happen because of a flood or a tornado. You could be homeless. What we don't realize is that if you're a part of the middle class, you usually have insurance, you usually have family, you usually have backup. And it's part of middle class thinking to have money in savings for an emergency. An emergency like a medical emergency where you have to buy meds and things could mean you don't get to pay rent or you can't buy food. Someone will lose a job, and it could be due to just being laid off. It could be due to working in a very booming area, and then all of a sudden that dwindles and the job is no longer here. Sometimes it happens because there's been some kind of infraction at the apartments, and so then the apartment history is marred, and so it's hard to be able to get in someplace else. It can happen to anyone. Even a divorce or a death of a spouse can throw a family into turmoil as to how they're going to cover all their expenses. And if they're not able to shift everything and continue on, then homelessness can happen so quickly.
I think it's hard to identify homeless students because the families have a lot of pride and there's a lot of shame involved when they're unable to meet their children's basic needs. I think for a lot of individuals it's hard to imagine that a 15, 16, or 17-year-old doesn't have a place to stay at night, that they are couch surfing or staying at a friend's house repeatedly, or families are doubling up with others. Oftentimes students don't share that they don't have a place to go, and if they do share that it's only with a couple of close friends, because the students are ashamed of their situation too and don't want people to know that they're in the situation that they're in.
The part that concerns me the most is when you have the families that, because we don't have maybe all of the resources we need in our community, they start doing, for lack of a better term, the shelter hopping. And there are families that will just move from shelter to shelter. And then you have children who have pockets of days where they're not in school. And again, not faulting anyone, it's just the nature of them having to make those transitions, having to make those moves. You end up with children who end up missing a lot of days of school, and that can be a problem for them.
Sometimes it's hard to tell if they're homeless. Sometimes we're given a heads up if they're coming from the shelter. Sometimes you can tell if you can hear just talking about living with maybe a family friend or a family member. You get the sense of maybe there's something that has a homelessness feel to it. Even taking a couple minutes and sitting down and talking with them with being careful without prying too much into their lives, because I think you have to be sensitive to what they want to share and what the family would like shared. But it's kind of a hard thing to figure out sometimes.
I guess in this job I run across all kinds of different types of homelessness. I have the families that truly have nowhere to go because they don't know anyone in town. We have the families that maybe, they might have a few places that they stay in town, and they'll kind of bop between grandma's house, and then when your welcome is worn thin, you might go to your auntie's house, you might go to a friend's, you might go to a hotel a day or two, stay a day or two in a car. We have families that are qualifying, because of the medical issues, and they need to be close to the hospital. When a family has to give up their apartment to be able to afford their medical bills, and families split because there oftentimes isn't enough room to put a whole family at one place. There's just so many different situations. Many people will think that there's the stereotype of homelessness. There's not. We have kids from every ethnicity. We have kids of all ages at all schools in our district. It happens everywhere, and it can happen to the wealthy, it can happen to the middle class, and it can happen to the poor.
Things started getting tough got a lot of rough family situations that led to me having to live with friends during the summer, which was a normal occurrence at the time. I ended up picking up a job and paying rent and stuff, and then I was unable to keep up with some of it, so staying with a friend ended up turning from a 3-month thing to about a 6 to 8. Ended up bouncing between places and right back to square one.
It was me and my 4 kids, so it was very hard living in a car for like 2 weeks. That was one of the difficult times in our life, having nowhere to lay down but in a car. And to shower, we used to go at the gas station and ask them if we can at least use their bathroom. It's very hard as a mother, and you're trying to provide for your kids, and that was some of the things that I'm like, okay, I have to do something. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep living in the car.
When you look at kids, and I think specifically of our 5 to 10-year-olds, these are kids who may not have a place to do schoolwork, a consistent place to do schoolwork. These are bodies that may not have a consistent place that they're going to be sleeping each and every night. To know that those pieces aren't always there absolutely affects children.
I think the Fargo Public Schools is working really hard to build relationships with the students, not just homeless students, but all students, so that we're able to identify the students who are in need of additional assistance and then get them connected to the resources. So it might be gas cards to get them to and from school, or groceries, maybe clothes to wear, new shoes, whatever it might be. Figuring out what resources are needed and getting them connected to the right community resources is essential.
You know, is there an opening in a shelter? Can you afford to go to a motel? Can we access these agencies that may be able to help you pay for a night or two to buy you a couple nights' time to get you into a shelter?
A lot of the help came from transportation, which was my biggest issue. Simple city bus passes and stuff, it helped me get to school on time every day, and even from there, it helped me get around.
I'm grateful to Lincoln for helping me and my boys. It was a bad situation, but with every bad thing come good things. That's why I see life. I'm happy to where I am right now because I live for my kids. So if I see them happy, that's when I'm happy.
The need to let families and students know that these services are out there is huge. We put posters out in the schools, letting them know that the services are available. I go out in the community and talk with different agencies that also work with homeless students and families. So I think the word of mouth piece is great, but it's also in getting the staff in the schools totally versed in understanding and just listening for when kids are dropping those subtle hints about how do I know if a kid is homeless? Where can we find them? All of that part.
It's difficult to make sure that homeless students are aware of the resources that are available because a lot of students might not know that they would be classified as homeless. And so building those relationships with them and the staff members understanding what might be a qualifier, whether you are a custodian, a lunch lady, a secretary, support staff, paraprofessional, teacher, principal, counselor, everybody needs to be able to build relationships and have a listening ear, and then just asking them if they need additional support to get to school or a place to stay because they're not having their basic needs met.
The federal dollars that we do get do have restrictions to them, so we're not able to just use them for everything and anything we want. That's why it's so important for us to have the community response. And I know there are different entities and different agencies in our community and different events that are happening that are focused specifically on homeless. And so the more events like that can happen, the better chances we have of having extra resources in our own community to help those families when they need them. The students, when I think specifically of our 5 to 10-year-olds, the ones that we're working with, those students come to us needing school supplies. They may not have the school supplies they need. Winter is a really tough time, especially around here, and so if they have lived elsewhere, they are not always coming prepared with clothes that would be appropriate for our very harsh winters. For those students who are actually, or those families who are living in their car, it's important for us to have hygiene items even in our nurse's office where they could brush their teeth, where they could do washing up, where they could change their clothes. It's important for us to have those kinds of items also. So the dollars do help us get those kinds of items for our families.
The future is well for us because we are in a very nice neighborhood. Fargo is a nice place to live. Coming from Chicago, and the place where I wasn't really nice. So me coming here and knowing that my kids is going to be raised in a good environment, if I need help, I know where to go for help.
I'm really grateful for everything that the public schools have done for me and other associations, and just absolutely everything that they've all done for me.
It's important for our school and our community to support these students and get them access to the resources because we want them to be productive citizens. There's honor in watching a student who has struggled with life situations walk across the stage and earn their diploma so that they can go out and give back to the community someday.
If our community continues to pull together as we have, we can identify and aid each and every one of the homeless students in our neighborhoods. With just a little help from all of us, these kids can lead a normal life and achieve their potential. And we can put an end to Fargo's silent secret.